Welcome to the Wyoming Women's Business Center's Dream Builder Week 6. Congratulations to everybody that has made it this far. It's a big accomplishment. We're going to start like we always do with a little bit of information about the Women's Business Center, and then we'll dive right into our assignments from last week and preview the assignment for this upcoming week, which will be our last week together. So the Wyoming Women's Business Center, as you know, is a nonprofit organization. We work with people who want to start or expand small businesses, specifically in the state of Wyoming. Of course, we have an emphasis on women, and we do that through 3 distinct programs. So our business training and counseling, which is what you're experiencing now in this cohort that you're attending for DreamBuilder. We also have a microloan program, which offers access to capital anywhere between $500 all the way up to $50,000. And that's for people that have been denied from a traditional lending source like a bank. And then our final program is our Artist Development Center. And we do that in conjunction with our Works of Wyoming retail store, which is located in downtown Laramie. All right, guys, so this program for DreamBuilder is all about writing your business plan and getting an action plan, action steps in place so that the launch of your business is more successful or the continuation of your launch is more successful. So this was a 6-week facilitated course plus a graduation celebration, which will happen next Tuesday. Incorporated into the DreamBuilder program is a business plan tool, which you've all been using. And so, of course, my recommendation is that you dedicate 3 or 4 hours a week to this so that you can make it to the finish line and you attend our 1-hour facilitated Zoom meetings weekly. And of course, I've been trying to keep them to 30 minutes just to give you a little extra time on Tuesday nights to do the actual curriculum if for any reason you're behind. So taking a look at our 6-week facilitated course, for those of you that are on the line with me tonight, can you just hop into that chat bubble for me real quick and let me know where you are at in the course? There's no judgment on my side. Just want to get a sense of where people are at in the course right now. So if you're all the way back on week 1 or week 2 in starting your dream or planning your dream, making your dream, or maybe you're in week 4, managing your dream, profiting from your dream. Maybe you're in the midst of funding your dream or formalizing your dream, and you just have a few more slides to watch on that within the DreamBuilder program. I'm okay with any and all of it. I just want to get a sense of where people are at as of tonight. If you could throw that in the chat for me. All right, we got a couple of responses. It says, pressed pause at week 2 while working on education goal. Understood. And then I've got somebody else that's at funding your dream. Don't be shy, everybody. Oh, somebody's made it to graduation. Now she's ready to update her business plan. Congratulations. And so for those of you that are on track, that's what you'll be working on this week. For those of you that need to catch up, that is a-okay. It says, just finished turning my dream into reality. Congratulations. So you're working a little bit ahead there. Perfect. We like it. We like it. So again, no judgment from me as far as where you're at in your business planning. One of the things that sometimes happens when people go through a course like this is they discover partially, through the process that maybe their business idea isn't as viable as they thought it was, right? And they maybe need to pivot or come up with a different idea. Or maybe they start to recognize that they really just don't have the time or the tenacity to pull this off, and they need to take a step back and regroup. So that's okay too. To me, that's a win. If you're educating yourself and you're becoming aware and knowledgeable about what you can and can't do or what's viable and isn't, that's an important building block in discovering entrepreneurship in and of itself. I've got somebody else that says, caught up on watching, but very behind on answering the questions. Yep, that's normal too. Sometimes answering those questions requires additional thought. Requires additional research, right? You got to go out and talk to more people, or you have to do some online research. And so answering the questions is key. And what I always tell business owners is, that don't want to work on their business plan or are annoyed by this process. I get it, right? There's a lot of this that feels like you're going back to school to a certain extent. But what I try to encourage people around is that if you can't spend 6 or 8 weeks digging in and answering some of these tough questions, then are you really going to be able to spend the time and have the dedication to actually run a full-time business? right? These are things that you're going to get caught on. If you don't do the pre-work, you're going to get caught up in problems in the midst of your business. And so do you want to be problem solving after the fact, or do you want to problem solve before you start? And so I encourage you to problem solve before you start, so you at least have a plan of action of how you're going to do this step by step, because problems are going to arise no matter what you do, but there's a whole bunch of things that can be avoided if you have a solid plan going forward. All right, off my soapbox. So moving on to what we covered in the last week, assuming you were on track. If not, then just listen and engage. And when you get to funding your dream, these are some of the things that are going to get covered. When we talked about funding your dream, we talked about categories of startup costs. And so I actually just took a screenshot of this graphic from this course because I love this image where it talks about 3 different buckets of startup costs. The first one is your startup expenses. The second one is your startup assets. And the third one is your monthly costs during startup. I find it very common for my entrepreneurs to know what their startup assets are going to cost. So let's take an example. Let's say you're planning on starting a bakery. Okay, people that want to start a bakery, they have a very solid financial picture of what it's going to cost for the commercial equipment that is required in a commercial kitchen. Right? They know exactly what the ovens are going to cost and where they can get the, double sink and what type of commercial dishwasher they might need and the electrical requirements for that space. And if they need a grease trap for something that they're making, like they typically are very knowledgeable about that asset class. And then things start to get a little more gray or nebulous when they get to their actual startup expenses. And that's because they're expenses outside of what their expertise is, right? So if you're a pastry chef or you've done a lot of baking, you've probably done a lot of research about the kitchen equipment that you need and the type of blenders and mixers and pans and things that you want, but maybe not so much on point of sale systems, right? Or the other aspects of the business that are going to be required. That's part of your startup expenses. And so that may be where you need to spend a little bit more of your time. And then one of the things that I see most commonly is that people don't budget for their monthly costs during the startup. Because what they do is they make this big assumption. And that assumption is, I'm going to open my doors and people are going to flood into my store or my bakery, and they're going to buy all kinds of things, and I'm going to be wildly profitable. And therefore, I'm going to be able to pay my rent and my payroll and all of my utilities and buy ongoing inventory and cover all of my ongoing marketing expenses that I signed up for with whatever agency, I hired in the very beginning. And that rarely happens. We usually need some type of startup capital that helps us pay our monthly expenses. And number 2 on that list on the right-hand side of your screen after rent is payroll. And this is also often the thing that never gets budgeted for entrepreneurs, because they go into their business and they say, well, I'll just work for free for the first couple of months until I get things rolling. And then what they find is that first couple of months turned into the first year, which rolled into year 2. And now you're in a situation where you're not making money in your own business. You're actually paying other employees money and you're paying all of your vendors money, but you're not able to afford to pay yourself. So I want to encourage you to make sure that you have all 3 of these buckets represented in your startup costs, and that it's part of your plan, and that you can see a time that you're actually able to pay yourself. And if you can't reasonably see that, then there's something wrong in either your marketing plan or your sales model or your profit margin, right? There's something wrong if you can't pull out a salary for yourself in a reasonable time frame within the first year that you're in business. Okay, moving on. Funding your dream. So under funding your dream, there's lots of different ways to make this happen. And one traditional way of funding your dream is through a business loan. And there's lots of different lenders that are out there. And so I just want to give a quick shout out for a monthly webinar that I give, which is called 7 Options to Access Money for Your Small Business. So I have one coming up next week on Tuesday, October 19th. And this is where I cover all the different options for finding or accessing money for your small business. And business loans are just one of those. Of course, we are a micro lender at the Wyoming Women's Business Center. And so that can be an avenue for lots of small businesses in Wyoming, especially, of course, if they've been denied from a traditional bank. But there's lots of other sources as well, including, your own savings or family and friends. And so I talk about what your 7 different options are, how likely those are for micro enterprises, which is the majority of our clients at the Wyoming Women's Business Center. And I'll cover that information on the 19th. So if you want to go to our website, which is wyomingwomen.org, you can register for that webinar, just like you registered for the DreamBuilder series. It's always free. And of course, I record it and send out that link to anybody that missed the live presentation. Okay, next up was formalizing your dream. And in formalizing your dream, this is what was talked about. First, they defined the terms of contracts and agreements. Next, they identified different types of contracts and agreements that are going to exist in your business. And then they explained why contracts and agreements are so important, right? Get it in writing and why that matters. They also explained why it's important to select an appropriate legal structure for your business. It's a question that I get often is, should I operate as a sole proprietorship? What's the difference between that and an LLC? When should I transition, or should I transition to an S Corp for tax purposes? What's the difference between an S Corp and a C Corp? If I'm in a general partnership, do I have to have an operating agreement? There are all of those kinds of questions. So in this course, they go into the 4 most common legal structures. And so the question that I had for you guys tonight is, what kind of legal structure have you set up for your business? Or have you set up a legal structure yet? So who's operating as a sole proprietor? Who's operating as an LLC? Again, no judgment here. I'm just curious as to what type of legal structure you've chosen for your business. Maybe you've set it up. Maybe you're planning to set it up. What direction are you thinking you're going to go? Just throw that in the chat for me. Okay, I've got one that is an S Corp. I've got somebody that's leaning towards an LLC, another LLC, probably LLC. Okay, nonprofit and an LLC. Great. Okay, this is all good stuff. Now, I always couch this conversation by saying, I'm not an attorney and I don't give legal advice. So if you need legal advice when it comes to the formation of your business, I encourage you to seek that out. I'm confident that it is money well spent, so that you set up your entity correctly from the beginning and understand what it means to be an LLC versus a sole proprietor and the advantages to that. I always recommend that people separate out their business finances from their personal finances, regardless how they run their business, right? Regardless of what legal structure, because that is what allows you to know whether or not you're succeeding, right? If all of your money is mixed together, then it's really hard to track and count. And if we don't know if we're winning or not, that makes it difficult to assess if our business is thriving or if we need to make a pivot or make a change. All right, and then the last thing that we covered in formalizing your dream was we explained why you need to make sure your business is compliant with regulations. And regulations can be really tricky because regulations can change from state to state, right? Regulations can be anything from, if you're a food business, right, going through some kind of health and safety department and getting awarded some type of license so that you can operate, all the way down to operating with a sales tax license if you're selling products, Where you don't need a sales tax license if you're selling services, right? Because we don't collect sales tax on services, but we do on products. It can also cover licenses for different cities and counties. So I can tell you in my entrepreneurial experience and background, when I owned a ice cream company and a food truck, we operated in both Colorado and Wyoming. And guess what? The rules, depending on where you were operating, were super different. Okay. And they were different literally by county in the state of Colorado. So in Wyoming, I got one food license. It came from the state, and that was it. And I could go anywhere in the state of Wyoming and operate under that one state food license. In Colorado, I received a state license from the county that my commercial kitchen was in. So my commercial kitchen was in Boulder County. And so my original food license came from Boulder County. However, if I chose to do any events within the city limits of Denver, the city of Denver required that I had a license from them as well. Now, not only did I have to have a food license from the city of Denver, I also had to have a sales tax license from the city and county of Denver. And then other cities got hip to this, and they started instituting their own licensing requirements. Part of this was because it's a health and safety thing when you're serving food. And in my personal opinion, part of it is because they like to collect fees from business owners if they can. So I ended up with sales tax licenses in almost every county in the state of Colorado. Some of those I was able to remit sales tax on a monthly or quarterly basis. Others, I actually had to prepay a sales tax of $25 worth of sales tax revenue, and then wait for a refund if my event didn't collect that much in sales tax. And so it was quite the hurdle to figure out in each county that I was going to be in what the requirements were. So when I operated in Colorado, I actually ended up with 3 different food licenses because Tri-County required a food license, the city and county of Denver required a food license, and then of course I had my state license, which flowed through Boulder County, and sales tax licenses in every county there was. Wyoming, totally different stories. So just remember that you sometimes learn as you go when it comes to compliance with some of these licenses and regulations and things that you have to follow. This is why it's always a benefit that you talk to economic development personnel in your county, in your state, in the area that you want to do business, because they can often let you know this is these are the rules of the road, right, for what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so under Formalizing Your Dream, I just wanted to call attention to this screen really quick. This was at the very beginning of the course, and it asked you about agreeing to a particular document. And I thought this was a really fun exercise. So you guys that haven't taken this yet, I won't spoil the surprise for those of you that did take it and maybe jumped to a conclusion of agreeing or disagreeing. You know what happened, and we'll go from there. Okay, Formalizing Your Dream as well. Again, they talked about licensing and permitting. And so I'm just calling your attention here to the Wyoming Business Council. If you go to the wyomingbusiness.org, they actually have a section on their website on licensing and permitting. And there's a complete FAQ that talks specifically about how do I form a Wyoming LLC or corporation? Do I have to register my out-of-state LLC or corporation to do business in Wyoming? They talk about sales tax, how to acquire a sales tax license. There's a tremendous amount of information on the wyomingbusiness.org website. And the Wyoming Business Council does a great job of making it really easy to do business in Wyoming. And I feel like I can say that with some expertise, not only after doing business in Colorado, but I'm also originally from California. And so I can tell you Wyoming is just a cakewalk in comparison to other states in the union as far as being open and ready for business. I actually think it's even simpler to be in business in Wyoming than it is in Texas. And that's saying something because Texas is open for business as well. Okay, navigation-wise on the program map, when we look at where you are at in your path, for those of you that are on track with our 6-week programming, this week you'll be entering course 13, which is the graduation course. And so this is where you should be at on the program map. If not, again, no judgment. We want you to catch up. We want you to finish out the program and answer all of those questions. So your week 6 assignment, in order to take you to graduation, these are the course topics that you're going to cover this week. So the first is creating your action plan. And I really like this because it's like your boots on the ground plan. It's what am I going to do first, second, and third in order to actually pull this off? So the action plan can be really powerful. And it's a great tool to use when you're pitching people on possibly becoming funders for your business, whether that's a bank or whether that is a friend or a family member. Right? Because not only do you have your fully developed business plan, but you have your action plan of what you're seeing as the most important, which also often means where you're going to spend money first. So if you need some funding in order to get started, that action plan can sort of be that phase 1 of funding, so to speak, because it's going to take you through potentially your first 90 days, for example. The second topic was setting your goals, and they talked about having SMART action goals. So a lot of people are familiar with what SMART goals are. S stands for simple, M is measurable, A is actionable, right? Reachable, time bound. That's your SMART goals. Topic 3 was identifying any challenges that are going to be in your way. So a little bit of a SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, like what you did when you were reviewing your competitors and doing your competitive analysis. This is that same kind of mindset or thought process that you want to go through of what are my roadblocks going to be? What are the challenges that I'm going to face in actually pulling this off? And get real about what those challenges are so that you can figure out how you're going to overcome those challenges, right? It's not reasonable to say, well, I work full time, but when I get home, there's another 8 or 10 hours there where I really don't need to sleep and I can just keep on working, right? It's not a sustainable plan. So if the timeline that you have is a challenge, then let's call that out and recognize it. And then let's set some realistic goals for yourself so that you either overcome that challenge or let's identify some people that can come in and help so that you can actually allocate the amount of time between yourself and other team members to what your goals are in your business. Okay, 4, using your allies and your resources. I always like to reiterate that in the state of Wyoming, you have an unbelievable number of people that are interested in your success as an entrepreneur and as a business. There's a couple of different reasons for this. First of all, we are not a very populated state, right? We're practically the most rural state in the union. We have more cows than people. And because of this, there is an emphasis on people starting businesses from economic developers, from community leaders, from education, right? They all understand that the lifeblood of our state is actually going to come from within. The idea that we are going to recruit these massive employers to Wyoming has never happened. It probably isn't going to. And so we're going to have to grow our own. And so because of that, there's been a tremendous amount of investment that has happened over the years in order to make sure that there's resources available for entrepreneurs. So there's resources available in your community. There's resources available statewide. The Women's Business Center is just one of many, many resources. And so this is my pitch for utilizing those resources and utilizing the economic developers in your county and in your community, in your city, statewide, all of these people that are available to you. And to also say that there are different levels of support depending on what stage of development your business is in. And you may come across some aides or some technical assistants or people that you really resonate with. and you feel like you get great advice from, and you really enjoy engaging with them. And you may come across other people that not so much, right? You're not resonating. You don't feel like their advice was overly helpful. It didn't move the needle. You thought maybe what you attended, whether it was a webinar or a course or an in-person meeting, was a bit of a waste of time, right? And what I want to say to you is that's pretty normal in everyday life, right? So when I go to get my teeth cleaned from a dental hygienist, sometimes it's an amazing, incredible experience, and sometimes not so much. I maybe didn't like that person. But when I leave that dentist office, I don't think to myself, well, you know what? That wasn't a great experience getting my teeth cleaned by that hygienist. And so therefore, I will never be getting my teeth cleaned again. That's not my reaction, right? My reaction is, I think maybe I'll ask for somebody different next time. Or maybe I'll look for a different dentist office or a different hygienist. Or maybe I'll wait until I go to Puerto Vallarta and go to the dentist down there. I don't know, but it's never, I'm not going to get my teeth cleaned ever again. So as a business owner, I want you to remember that you're going to seek advice and counsel and mentorship and collaboration and community with a bunch of different people on this journey. And some of those people are going to be great experiences and some of them not so much. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because you talk to one business counselor and didn't have a great experience doesn't mean that when you talk to another one, you won't have a great experience. Some of the onus has to be on you to seek out the information, seek out the advice, be prepared with the questions that you're asking, and you can size somebody up pretty quickly to know whether or not they have experience in a particular area or not. And remember that if you don't get the advice that you're seeking, it doesn't mean that that entity or that organization provides no value to you. It just means today you didn't get this question answered. But maybe tomorrow you'll have a different thing that you need help with, and that agency or entity can help you then. So a little bit of patience with using or utilizing your allies and resources is always a good idea. And don't be afraid to ask, right? I spend the majority of my time trying to convince clients to reach out to me. They're afraid they're bothering me. They're concerned I might be in another meeting. They don't want to overwhelm me with questions. They're worried about taking too much of my time. Guys, this is what we do for a living, right? Like we want to engage. We want to help you. So don't hesitate to reach out. Don't hesitate to send an email. As an entrepreneur, you're going to constantly be asking for the sale. You're going to constantly be asking people to buy from you. So you can get practice through these economic development allies and resources by asking. Ask for the help and the resources that you need. The worst thing that happens is you start out where you currently are at, which is in a space of not knowing. The best thing that happens is you get the answers. But either way, please ask. Okay, topic 5 was creating an advisory board. This is an interesting concept. A lot of people sometimes think about an advisory board more from the standpoint of a nonprofit, right? Advisory board, they think, oh, that kind of sounds like board of directors, versus an advisory board for a for-profit company. So what's the difference? Well, an advisory board is just that. It's a group of usually business leaders that can advise you or mentor you as a business owner. Where a board of directors in a nonprofit organization, they actually have a fiduciary responsibility and kind of almost hiring and firing authority, right, for the executive director of that nonprofit. So advisory boards are very different. But can also be really, really helpful, especially for startup entrepreneurs. Now, some of this is going to be dependent on the type of business that you have and if it lends itself to a full advisory board. And so that's something that you can talk to a business counselor about to see if that's something that makes sense. You can also create kind of an ad hoc advisory board where you just have certain mentors or experts that you reach out to from time to time versus a board that actually has formal meetings on a monthly basis where you're bringing an agenda and discussing specific topics in your business. All right, next was setting your timeline. And then again, they talked about program resources. So in setting your timeline, this is part of your action plan of when are you going to get these things done, setting those deadlines, adhering to those goals. And then program resources, and finally graduation. And then there was a closing quiz. So again, for those of you that finished up, congratulations, you can print out your graduation certificate. And what I'd like to encourage everybody to do is to ask any questions right now that you have. If you feel like you've gotten stuck at any point in this program, or you're struggling with anything that you want to ask about, go ahead and type that in the chat or type that in the questions panel, and I'll keep an eye on that. In addition to that, you guys know our funding partners, right? We're with the SBA, we're with the Wyoming Business Council. Those are our two primary funders. And then we have the Daniels Fund, USDA, and the Wyoming Arts Council that also contribute to our success. But your graduation tasks. So I've asked you the past couple of weeks to reach out to me for a coaching session. Only a couple of you have scheduled meetings with me. So I'd love to see more of that. I really don't care where you're at as far as the track is concerned within the course. I just want to get a sense of what your business is and where you're at in the process, and if we can answer any questions, and if I can help you get unstuck if you're stuck in any parts, or I can help you kind of reprioritize if you're struggling to find time in order to finish out this course. But I'd love to have a one-on-one session with you. It comes with the course. All of this is free and complimentary. No reason to not reach out. If you have finished and you've gotten to graduation and you've been able to, click that button and actually print out your business plan or save your business plan as a Word document, I'd love to see it. Business plans will never be perfect. I don't care if it's perfect. I just want a sense of what your business plan looks like today. And I want to give you pointers on additional questions you can ask yourself, or ways that you can frame things in order to help your business plan be more complete. So again, free service. Why wouldn't you take advantage of it is always my attitude. And I encourage you, again, to reach out for a coaching session. So even if you feel like you're not ready to present a business plan to me, I'm still interested in having a coaching session, regardless of what stage of development you're in or what track you're in DreamBuilder. All right, guys, nothing in my Q&A right now, nothing in my chat. I'm just going to drop this window down and see who I've got with me. Okay, yes, yes, yes. This is great. I'm excited that we have so many people that have made it to week 6. I will tell you that the DreamBuilder statistics are not overly high as far as people that actually graduate and finish the entire program. So our stats are running higher than average right now. I'm happy about that. I'm happy that those that have joined us tonight are still somewhat on track in order to finish within our time frame. So my plan for next week is really to just do a quick recap, and then I'm going to unmute everybody that joins us next week. And I really just want to have more of an entrepreneurial discussion about your businesses. And so I'd like you to be prepared next week to give your elevator pitch, so that the other people that have participated in this cohort with you can hear a little bit about your business. And so just be prepared to introduce yourself next week and give us your elevator pitch. And then we're just going to have a discussion about your experience going through this DreamBuilder course, kind of where you're at and what you think your next step is. And so I'll facilitate that discussion. We'll unmute everybody that attends, and I think it'll be fun. And I hope that you guys will learn from each other through that process. All right, so a little after the 30-minute mark that I'm trying to hold myself to here. And so I will wrap it up. Thank you so much for attending tonight. I look forward to scheduling those sessions, those individual coaching sessions with each one of you. And we will see everybody next week. Let's see, I've got one question here. What are the steps for not finishing in the time frame? So you'll always have access to the DreamBuilder program from here on out. Your subscription essentially to DreamBuilder never goes away. Okay, so you have as much time as you want in order to complete the program. And as long as the Wyoming Women's Business Center is an organization, and we've been a nonprofit organization for the last 20 years in Wyoming, and we just got re-upped on our annual grant from the SBA, so I don't see us going away. As long as we're around, we're always going to have business counselors available to you to go over your business plan and to walk you through the steps of DreamBuilder. It's a long-term commitment that we've made for our business. So encourage you to just keep going and keep attending. Attend next week's as well, regardless of whether you have finished or not. And then we'll just continue to have an offline relationship, offline as far as these webinars are concerned, and keep going with you through the program until you get to the finish line. Once a client of the WWBC, you're always a client. So you guys are all registered clients, and we're excited to work with you going forward. All right, everybody, have a great night. Thanks again for attending, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.